In today's address, we'll hear about the port's progress to date, and we'll look ahead to them for future challenges and opportunities. Today's program features speakers from all three ports. We'll have the first one coming up, Bill Clark. He's the Port of Pasco's commissioner, and Commissioner Bill Clark has been with the port for 20 years. He was the chief of police in Newport, Washington before retiring. He is now involved with Camp Patriot. It's an organization his son Micah founded, and it's a foundation that helps disabled veterans transition back to civilian life by providing outdoor adventures that promote positive, life-changing relationships and experiences. Please help me welcome Bill Clark.
Thank you, Toby. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you to the Chamber and to folks that have put up with me for 20 years on the port for letting us come here and speak to you today. I'm going to try technology here. It works. I was tempted to put up a picture of the Three Stooges, but I had two problems with that. The first one was I thought half the audience here isn't old enough to remember who the Three Stooges were. And the other problem was that those who could remember couldn't tell the difference between this picture and the Three Stooges. That's Larry, Curly, and Moe, and I'm the good-looking guy in the upper right-hand corner. Since we last talked, it's been about 6 years, I guess, since I was up here to speak to you. We've done a few things. We've had an extended period of aggressive capital investment. We recorded record-breaking boardings at the airport, and we've done some long-term planning to result in new development that we've got going on. Capital projects improvements, as you can see there, we've spent $102 million since about 1998, and thank you for giving us that $102 million. Most of that comes from grants, federal grants, various things. Very little of it really comes from the taxpayers in Franklin County. We've always used our tax money to pay for, generally try to pay for bonds with it. So when we go out and exercise our authority to get bonds, we get a lot of money that we do matching funds with, plus a lot of that came from, like I said, federal grants. Some of that money went into redoing the roofs down at Big Pasco. We've got 8 very large buildings were built back in World War II, and combined that makes up 32 acres of roofs. So when you start doing 32 acres of roofing, that's a lot of money. But the payoff is that once we got those buildings in good shape again, we had companies like Parsons, that's a picture of them on the right, that took over quite a bit of space there, and they took a lot of the projects off of Hanford and started doing them in the private sector, and so we were glad to be able to partner with Parsons to make buildings available. I want to say this about governments and jobs. You have your own political assessment of that. Governments never make jobs, in my opinion. We only make government jobs. Real jobs are created by the folks that sit in this audience that gamble with their own money, create businesses, and you create the real jobs. So our hats off to you, and we're just glad to be a small player in that process of making something available to a business venture that allows them to then really create the jobs. Another big project that we had that was fairly costly is putting in rail down at Big Pasco. As you can see, everything is done on that picture with the exception of the purple line. That purple line runs for about, is that a mile? About a mile, which trains like. They like to be able to pull in a full-length train, do whatever they're going to do with it, and then pull the train back out as an entire unit. So that's one of the benefits to our long track that we have laying out there in the Big Pasco area. One of the companies that we attracted, just because we have some open space, is the wind turbine business. They bring these wind turbines in a lot from Holland or overseas, various places. They'll freight them up the river or bring them in by rail. and then they stockpile them at Big Pasco, and then they'll truck them out to various sites that they want to put the wind turbines to use. Those are the nacelles that most of them are stored, I think, down in Vancouver. There's some that came into Pasco, and then they were likewise trucked out. We have a new customer, a short-term customer, probably called Mammoet. You may have read a little bit about them in the paper. They're a transporting company, and they're moving oil drilling gear from the ocean, where a lot of it came in, up the river, and they were actually going to go through the Port of Lewiston, but they ran into some problems trying to truck it from there up to Canada. This is all going up to a sands oil processing up in Canada, and so they ended up coming to the Port of Pasco, and they are slowly, I don't know if it was the first truck that went out. It went out this morning with some of this gear headed toward Canada. Probably maybe the highlight of what we've done since '98 is we finally got Osprey Point Business Park under operation. And that started back in 1998 when the Port Commission started. We actually started talking about this when I first came on the commission. Not I mean, the conversation's been going on for a long time about that gorgeous riverfront that we've got down there with no dikes, easy access to the water once we cleared out all the trees and the brush, or at least some of the trees. So we started talking about that, and then as you probably know, I think it was in '07, we lost a large building down there due to a fire, and that was the catalyst that let us move then to actually starting construction and building our first building down at Osprey Point. This shows kind of an overall master plan. There's room in the portion below, if I can use this. This is Ainsworth Avenue. And down here, in this bottom part, close to the water, there's room for about 27 buildings that we've put in the master plan. And up above, there's room for another 15 buildings. That would be above Ainsworth. They're different kinds of buildings. This is high-end office space. And if you haven't had a chance to come over and see the new Port of Pasco building, I wish you would. I'll show you a picture here in just a second. Pretty nice facility. This is what it looked like before. There's a lot of pretty flowers and stuff growing out there, and I think I promised you 6 years ago we were going to kill all those and pave them over, and we did that, but we were delicate when we did it. You know, you don't want to prune weeds, you just want to kill them, so we had to get rid of the weeds. But we put back some really nice stuff. That's a picture, kind of an overhead picture of the construction in progress. It may be a little hard to see. This is the new Port of Pasco, and then also we have a second floor on the main floor that's available for lease. And then this is all that property where we have room for about 27 new buildings, new structures. That all depends on needs. If somebody wants to take half of it and build a huge facility, we'd be more than happy to let you have that. And then the new adventure up here would be room for another 15 buildings as the need arises. This is what the new building at the Port of Pasco looks like. We have the upper floor, and then as I said, the lower floor, the bottom is available. The views are spectacular. We've removed a lot of the trees, so the views are really nice. We do have some space in our meeting room that those doors open up, and if you haven't been over there yet, those doors open up, and so going from an indoor meeting room, all of a sudden you're sitting in the outdoors. It's really nice. So if you need to have a space to carry on some kind of government function and maybe we've come up with a kind of a plan on who will rent to starting out to see how that goes, because we want that building used by as many folks as we can. So get a hold of Vicki and she can tell you what the rules are. Along the walkway, even before we did the building down there, we'd gotten a grant to realign Ainsworth, and part of that realignment, we put a really nice trail in along the river that ties into the rest of the Tri-Cities trail system. So you can literally go for, it's about, I'm going to guess 20-some miles. I've ridden it a few times on my bike around the Tri-Cities. It's gorgeous. And actually, you can go further than that if you go up toward Port of Benton, up into the Hanford area. So a lot of trails and some pretty scenery. And if you go down there and you're real quiet, you probably see some critters running around other than Port of Pasco commissioners. Osprey Point North proposed flex building. We have one tenant, been a long-term tenant of ours. It's going to probably be our first, we hope, our first tenant in the new building. And I think that's going to be around a $1.2 million structure. Safety Clean is it's no secret. They're in an old, ugly building. It's not their building, it's our building. We spent millions of dollars down there at the Osprey Point, and we want to get rid of all the old, ugly buildings, so we're going to have to displace some of our great customers. And so we're trying to find a spot that we can build a new building that satisfies Safety Clean's needs. They've been a great customer and tenant of ours. And so this is going to be just located not quite across the street from our new Osprey Point, but it's going to be across Ainsworth from where the Port of Pasco building is. Probably the most significant thing that's happened as far as just sheer numbers of people is out at the airport. As you can see, the red line over there, that takes us through August of this year for boardings at the airport. This is a real head scratcher. I mean, you could say, well, it's stimulus money out at Hanford, it's all these different things, but we have seen steady growth now for probably the last 4 or 5 years. We have no reason to believe that it's not going to continue to grow. But if we're at that level in August, we believe it's really going to set a new record again this year. Certainly not due to low ticket prices, I can guarantee that. The master plan really drives a lot of what we're going to be doing out at the airport, and we have to do that to satisfy some of the needs of the FAA. Also, it helps us really put our arms around what we need to do with the airport to make it useful to the folks that live here in the region, and makes it useful to the airlines to want to stay here. So we're doing some redesign, we're calculating some things. We think there's going to be a 2.8% continued growth of airplane employments. So calculating all that, we've come up with some changes that we need to make at the airport. Everything that's in color up there is additions that we need to do at the airport. The airport, of course, the top picture, and the bottom picture there is the parking area out in front of the terminal. Right now the road runs right along the edge here and comes into the terminal. We need to relocate the road so we can add some more parking. We came up with a brilliant idea. You see this big hole right here. A big hole right there. It's really a pretty hole. It had grass and trees and stuff in it. And so what a great idea. We can pick up 30 more parking spaces and charge you people more money to park. So we took that out, and God thought that would be cute. So he decided to test that new drainage system, and so he brought a whole bunch of rain and we flooded a bunch of cars. So it was just kind of a rare occurrence. I don't think it'll happen again, so feel free to park down there. Check your flood insurance though to make sure you got plenty of flood insurance. It's kind of a weird looking picture, but what that is the inside of the terminal, and right here is where there's a women's bathroom, and over here is a men's bathroom, and we need to clear those things out of there so we can make a queuing area to get passengers into the screening point a lot better. Downside is there's no longer going to be any bathrooms at the airport, so please go before you come to the airport. I'm estimating probably about a 9-hour delay before you get to a restroom. I've quit flying myself. It's up to you what you want to do. Actually, we're going to move the restrooms up here, right up front, so easy access. We're going to have to expand ticket counters, we believe, in the future, as well as taking care of the tugs that move all the baggage. We're going to have to do some expansion on that as well. When I first looked at this picture, I thought, well, this must be an Air Force depiction of a bombing raid over Iraq. Actually, what it is, it's our new terminal expansion. Right now, the terminal just comes out to here and ends. So what we need to do in order to accommodate all the folks that want to travel is we need to go to a T configuration. When you start talking about 757s, you got to go to second level boarding. You can't go down to the ground and then climb up the stairs normally. So it would require us to get one additional, or probably even replace the one we got, ramp to load with. So anyway, this is future expansion. This is probably going to happen. There's some things going to happen probably in the next 5 years. Some of this will maybe take 10 to 15 years to actually build out. But the demand is there, so we know that we have to do something with it. And that looks like that's the end of my slides. I thought I had 100 and some slides here, but I guess I only had that many.
Now we'll hear from Port of Benton, Commissioner Bob Larson. Bob Larson has been a commissioner for the Port of Benton for 18 years, and he is currently the commission president. He retired from the Department of Energy more than 25 years with 25 years experience in the procurement and the contract administration. Commissioner Larson is active in Rotary International, Benton Franklin Council of Governments, and Good Roads Association. Please help me welcome Bob Larson.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm glad to talk about the Port of Benton. Okay. This is there are three commissioners, and I want to recognize again Jane Haggerty from Prosser and Rory Keck from Columbia Point. This slide shows the assets of the Port of Benton. The biggest asset, the best asset we have, it's not on the slide, it's our staff, which is an outstanding staff. On the other side, you can see in green where the Port of Benton operates. It has about half the Benton County for our boundaries. And I'm going to talk to you today, but basically I'm going to show you some slides of projects that we are performed with or performing now. And the first one will be Crowview Park. This is an island that the Corps of Engineers own. It's about 11 miles south of Patterson, and it's on the Columbia River, naturally. And the Corps gave us 250 acres, and in that is a Crowview Park. With the help of Klickitat County and Benton County and the port, we have modernized the port. And these are the assets we have. We updated the electrical system and put in new restrooms and showers, and next year we'll probably modernize the docks. One thing we did is really neat, I think. We have a website, and you can do you can make reservations anytime on the by the computer and pay by the computer, and so we're out of the cash business now, which is a good deal. This is a picture of, we're into Prosser now, and this is a picture of Ventnor Village Phase 1. And if you'll see on the left, there's some buildings, and that's Yellow Rose Nursery. And that we bought 33 acres, put infrastructure in, and that's a water, sewer, roads, paths, lights, and electricity and gas. That's expensive, but for the first 10 acres to get it started, we sold to Yellow Rose, and the other 22 acres we plotted out and sold that to 11 wineries. And I want to show you, when you say wineries, they're beautiful buildings. And okay, this is a part of the Yellow Rose Nursery, and the next one. Okay, Milbrandt Vineyards, beautiful building. Next one. Ocean Estates, and the next one, Wino Clock, and that's a beautiful building. And they also serve food, and as you can see, they grow a lot of food around their winery. Okay. When we finished that project, we thought, well, this is good. You buy property, put infrastructure in, and so we're duplicating Ventnor Village 2 right next to Ventnor Village 1. We bought about 30 acres and put infrastructure in, plotted. We got 20 plots. Our plan is to have people come in and start businesses that will support the wine industry. Okay. This is it's still in Prosser and at the Wine and Food Park. This is the east end of the park, and it's our #1 incubator. And you can see that on the left is Sterling company that makes vodka, and they make the vodka from the wine waste. And people say, well, and you probably know, but incubators work where you bring a business in, and they stay there from 3 to 5 years, and then they graduate, and you bring somebody else in. But our best graduate person is Mike Hogue, Mike Hogue started in his garage making wine. I'm sure you heard the story, but making wine. Then he came to our incubator, stayed there for about 3 years, moved across the street and built the Hogue winery, and then operated it for 20 years and became the third largest winery in the state of Washington. And he sold it to a company in Canada. And after about 5 years, according to his contract, he could go back into business, and he did. And he's a partner with Mercer Estates, which is right next door to our incubator. Next. This is the Walter Core Wine and Culinary Center. We bought 24 acres, put all the infrastructure in. And if you know, on the circle on the right is the circle on the right. That's where Desert Wind's there. The new Walter Core Winery is going to be there. It's a $4 million facility, give or take a few dollars. And they're expected to start before the end of this year. They have the money to go ahead. And next to it is a $1 million facility that's built, and it's for outdoor activities. And if we could, okay, if you want to go on, I'll show you. This is a picture of the inside of the pavilion, and they're having that's a outdoor activity. And later on at night, next one, this is a wine gala, and this is a picture at sunset. Okay, next. Okay, moving on to Benton City, we have an industrial park there, and we decided to do something different besides run the industrial park. We went in the middle of town and bought a building and remodeled it. It's called a development building, and the building on the left is a pharmacy, and this. What's important about this is that it's the first pharmacy that Benton City has had in 20 years. Okay. Okay, going to Richland now. This is the Tri-City Enterprise Center that Richland built for an incubator and operated for 20 years, and then sold it to WSU Tri-Cities for a classroom. And this summer we bought it from WSU Tri-Cities to be our second incubator. And on the far end is where DOE has their staff that operates the tours for the B reactor. And in the middle is the White Bluffs Brewery, and the next to it is going to be a bakery. Okay. This is a shot you've probably never seen before. It is the sand and gravel operation that we have close to Battelle on the other side of Jadwin. And American Rock is operating that, mining it and operating it, and they make concrete, and they sell that all over the Tri-Cities and the region. Okay. Okay, this is 250 acres. Yeah. That we're on the riverfront, and I just want to show you some buildings just going up the riverfront. The first one is Penn Foods. Penn Foods makes potato starch, and they get the potato waste from Lamb Weston when they make their French fries. They truck it over to their place, and they process it. This is a $15 million facility, and they have told us that they're going to expand 6 more million, so that they're doing really well. Next. We sold 33 acres and to a firm right in the middle to develop businesses and do some housing. The housing development is doing well. They've built 12 townhouses. Townhouses, they've got 2 homes on each side, and each home sells for about $600,000. But the realtor will tell you the price if you ask. Okay, this is our barge slip. Everybody's got a dock, but we got a barge slip. When nuclear submarines are decommissioned at Bremerton Shipyard, they are cut up for scrap. But before they do that, they pull out the fuel out of the reactor vessel, which is the engine, and wrap it in iron and bring it up the Columbia River to our barge. And Lamson pulls the reactor vessel that doesn't have fuel in it onto a transporter, and they take it out to the Hanford to be stored. Okay. Okay, this is our latest park project. It's a USS Triton sail. The USS Triton is a historical submarine. It went, as you probably know, it went around the world submerged, the first one submerged all the way. And it's the only submarine with 2 nuclear reactors in it, and this submarine had the largest sail. So we asked the Navy if we could get the sail, and they said yes. And so Larson went down there, the shipyard cut it into 6 pieces. Larson trucked it up and then hung it up and then welded it back together. And so our park was born. And this is what it looks like. And they're finishing the paving and, yes. Oh, thank you. You think I need that? Some water. The November 10th is the grand opening. The landscaping will be done and the paving will be done. And it'll look like that, and it's really pretty. And what's really great, if you go at night, you see this same thing with a sail coming up out of cement. And if you have a chair and a bottle of wine, you'll have a great time watching. There's lights all around it. There's lights inside the sail, and the running lights are on. And it really is pretty at night. And it's pretty there, too. Okay. I haven't mentioned our executive director, Scott Keller, but here he is receiving the professional port management certification from the American Association of Port Authorities. And the port authorities are, they cover the ports in North America and Canada and Latin America and the Caribbean. And they're a prestigious organization, and that's a prestigious award, and we're really proud of him. Okay, the last thing I want to tell you is somebody said, well, tell us what your future is. And our future, we think, is in the wine industry, and as DOE cleans up the land and turns it over to the private industry, that we can help develop the land and create jobs.
Thank you. Our next speaker is going to be from the Port of Kennewick, Skip Novakovich. Skip has represented the Port of Kennewick District citizens since 2009. He's the owner of Esprit Graphic Design and Communications in downtown Kennewick. And in 2011, he was named Tri-Citian of the Year. Congratulations, Skip. And in honor of Skip's work with the Columbia Basin Veterans Coalition, he was named Grand Marshal for the 2011 Veterans Day Parade. Skip.
Well, I want to thank you for allowing us to be here today and talk about the Port of Kennewick. I want to thank Toby and Lori and all the port staff for allowing us to be here. But before I go on, I'd like to introduce and have them stand, my 2 fellow commissioners, David Hansen and Jean Wagner. Since I'm the very newest commissioner of all this, they're kind of mentoring me on how to do things, and I feel a little awkward here after Bill and Bob. I feel like a little kid batting cleanup at a Little League game, and I don't know which end of the bat to hold. But, you know, bear with me and we'll try to make it through this. You know, as much as, and I'm sure Bill and Bob will agree, as much as our commissioners like to take credit for the things that we do and the successes that our port has, we actually know better. And it's our staff that really deserves that credit. So I'd like to ask the Port of Kennewick staff to please stand to be recognized. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very, very amazing team. They do all the heavy lifting, and they should get the credit for all the successes that we have at the Port of Kennewick. I'd like to tell you a little bit of history about the Port of Kennewick. We were established as the 5th port district in the state of Washington in 1915. When we were established, we were just a 5-acre or 5-mile district to take advantage of shipping opportunities on the Columbia River. Since 1915, we've grown to a district of over 485 square miles. We take in all of Kennewick, parts of Richland, all of West Richland, parts of Benton City, and parts of unincorporated areas of Benton County. We depend very heavily on those jurisdictions as our economic development partners to foster jobs, build infrastructure, enhance tourism, and improve the quality of life for future generations. Everything we do is based on the partnerships with those jurisdictions and our other community partners. We wouldn't be successful if we didn't have those partners to work with. One thing that I'm particularly proud of when I started looking at Port of Kennewick financials and records and stuff is I realized that ports are taxing entities. You know, ports have the ability to tax. But the Port of Kennewick takes this extremely seriously, I found out. And while we've been bringing successful projects online over the years, we've also been able to work very hard at lowering our levy rate. As you can see there, it's from 2001 till now, our levy rate has actually decreased 23%. Now this next slide shows you how that decrease in levy rate matches up with what we've been able to accomplish. As all of you know, owner's equity is the equity that the shareholders or the taxpayers of the Port District have in their Port District. And I'm very proud to tell you that from 1997 to 2010, our taxpayers' equity in the Port of Kennewick is increased by $32.3 million while our levy rates decreased 23%. So I think you can tell that the Port of Kennewick is a very, very strong financial institution and very well managed. Now I'd like to share with you several projects that we've worked on with our partners. We partnered with the City of West Richland to create the Wine Estates Business Park near Red Mountain. We just finished landscaping in that area to make it more attractive for the businesses that are there and also for the port property that remains there that we have for sale. With the West Richland City Council, we jointly created the West Richland Economic Development Committee, a committee that has port members and City of West Richland Council members coming together to look at how we can identify and plan for economic development opportunities in West Richland in the future. We partnered with the City of Richland to create the Spalding Business Park. That area has seen a tremendous amount of private investment in the last few years. Currently, there's over 72,000 square feet of buildings under construction in the business park. This slide shows the chaplaincy's $3.2 million, 13,000 square foot building. The chaplaincy will house administrative offices, hospice teams, chaplains, and a community education program in that building. Also in Spalding Business Park, I'm sure you've seen going up the Eden Medical Center. This 4-story building, when completed, will bring 100 new medical jobs to the City of Richland. Then if you drive by on 240, you notice another building going up that's close to 240. That's Connor Construction working on a 24,000 square foot, $3 million building that will accommodate medical, business, office, or retail space. In Kennewick, we worked hard to update the Vistafield Master Plan. We secured a $158,000 grant for pavement maintenance and improvements at the airport. The City of Kennewick approved our request for a zoning change to the nearly 97 acres within the airport area. This change was necessary to allow the property to conform to the city's own land use plan and to remove potential issues to future private investment in that area. We're now in the process of selecting, as you read in the paper, a fixed base operator for the airport. We see that fixed base operator as being a catalyst to stimulate interest and economic activity at Vistafield. But even without the FBO, the airport is already attracting new businesses. We agreed to sell 3.5 acres to Pacific Cataract and Laser Institute. They plan to build a 20,000 square foot surgery center and plan to hire up to 40 new employees. We're also selling more property to the Vistafield Industrial Park 2 LLC. During the past 4 years, this company has already built 120,000 square feet of warehouse space on Vistafield property they purchased from the Port of Kennewick. They're planning now to build a 20,000 square foot office and warehouse building, which could eventually expand to 75,000 square feet depending on demand. This is something I'm really proud of. At East Oak Street in East Kennewick, the Humane Society, that my wife's the president of, began constructing a nearly 10,000 square foot no-kill animal shelter on property that they purchased for the port. When this is done, it will triple the capacity that they had in their old facility, and it'll also create new jobs in the future as they expand into that facility. Our Oak Street industrial property, a few days ago we were granted $75,000 from Hayfig to improve that property. We are going to match it 100% and improve those development buildings to renovate and update them as incubator buildings for new businesses. On Clover Island, the port welcomed Pixelsoft Films to the West Marina Professional Office Building. That's the commonly known as the Yacht Club building. And according to their CEO, an office on the island with views of the water inspires a creative environment. Now, since Pixelsoft is only leasing a portion of that upper area of that building, there is more space available. And I believe the Port of Kennewick always comes prepared for everything. So we have Teresa over there who has brought a lease. If any of you would like to lease the rest of that portion, she'd be happy to meet with you right after this meeting. The Clover Island Lighthouse earlier this year was honored with the first ever Concrete Community Award from the Washington Aggregates and Concrete Association for the Clover Island Lighthouse and Plaza project. According to the judges, this project was so unique that they created an award especially for this project that hadn't existed before. But they thought it was unique enough that they needed to give us an award, and they did that. As most of you know by now, and maybe you've seen, the port's biggest accomplishment this year, and that's completing the Clover Island Shoreline Improvement Project. We partnered with the state, the city of Kennewick, to help fund that project, and we had support along the way from many agencies, including the Confederate Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation. This photo shows Fred Hill, who is a board member of the Umatilla tribe, and he offered words of encouragement while the drummers and singers offered their blessings for the work that was done on the shoreline. Now, if you look at this guy here on your right, he shows up everywhere. I mean, he's in the paper, he's running on the island, he's everywhere you can see him. But we have to tell you that Ken Hohenberg, Kennewick Chief of Police, is a pretty awesome man. He and his two captains help us officially ribbon break the pathway and open the Clover Island Riverwalk. And I personally I don't know if Ken's here, but I personally want to thank him or everybody from the KPD, because I've worked with them in the downtown area now at the port for a number of years, and without their help and support and involvement, I'm not sure that we could be where we are today. They've done a tremendous job of helping all the business owners in the downtown Kennewick and Columbia Drive area, and they just continue to do so. This picture itself, I think the beauty of it just speaks for itself. This is the Clover Island Riverwalk. It shows the lighthouse and plaza in the background. And this area has just become a destination spot for the entire region. While visiting Washington's newest lighthouse, and this is the first lighthouse built in America since 1962, people can commemorate their visit with a collectible ink stamp created by the United States Lighthouse Society. In response to community feedback and support from the Coast Guard, we recently installed a more powerful lantern in the lighthouse, and we've even had a request from a community member for a foghorn. Now, I'm not sure the commissioners are going to go for that, but the request was made. And while we were out to make improvements for the public, this photo really hit home with me with just how well we've succeeded. The island has not only become a place for weddings, fun runs, walking, bicycling, it's become an iconic setting for keepsake photos such as this, a true all-ages regional waterfront destination. And we're continuing to do more improvements on Clover Island. The port just began a construction project to renovate 91 spaces on Clover Island. That project should be complete by Thanksgiving. Now, another exciting project that's in our works and could come partially to fruition next year, the village at Island Harbor. We're working with an architect to design this area. The conceptual plan includes inviting pathways, courtyards, open spaces, retail, commercial, and residential buildings on the south side of Clover Island. If you look right in the middle, that middle building that's there is actually in our draft work plan for 2012 to be constructed next year. We continue to focus on our neighborhood near Duffy's Pond and Clover Island and Columbia Drive. We've already acquired 14 of the 28 acres between the cable bridge and the causeway to the island. The yellow shows the land that we've acquired so far. The red area is an area that we have an option on, and we're hoping to partner with the City of Kennewick to purchase that land, hopefully next year. This past spring, the port, the city, the Corps of Engineers, and the community volunteers joined together to remove trash and debris from Duffy's Pond. Now, if you can believe this, a lot of you have seen Duffy's Pond or know where it is at least, or if you haven't seen it, you have a general idea where it is. If you can believe this, the Corps of Engineers pulled out 7 junk rusty cars out of Duffy's Pond during this cleanup. Just amazing. But the cleanup was part of Sheriff Fest. It was cleaned up at no additional expense to taxpayers, and it represents another step forward in improving Columbia Drive and strengthening our partnership with the City of Kennewick. If you look there on the left, that's Mayor Pro Tem Sharon Brown of the City of Kennewick. I don't know what she's got in those garbage bags, but she's smiling, so she's probably having some fun. The city manager was out there, as a lot of other city staff joined port staff, and actually it was a lot of fun. Our goal is to transform the Columbia Drive neighborhood into an attractive, economically viable, sustainable mixed-use destination area. Just last month, we held the first of several pattern language meetings that'll help us master plan that area in the future. And I really appreciate the 30 or so people that gave up a day-long time to come and speak with Professor Gary Black and the port people and the community that came together. A diverse group of people came together to talk about what they'd like to see in this area. And I'm really encouraged that the City of Kennewick joined us in this, participated day long. Even though their people changed from morning to afternoon, they had representatives there all along, and they expressed a willingness to help us identify and partner on a catalytic project in the bridge-to-bridge, river-to-railroad area. And we've partnered with the City of Kennewick on various other projects as well. We supported the city's bid to name one of the new Washington State ferries for Kennewick. The new ferry will launch in early 2012 and will serve the Point Defiance route near Tacoma. Well, the port accomplished an awful lot this last year. I'm especially proud of our work recently to strengthen our relationship with the Umatilla, Confederate Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation. As most of you know, once the treaties were signed in 1855, and so the Indian nations are sovereign nations. They're their own nation. We were invited by them to participate in a meeting with their board at the Tamkalex Cultural Institute in Pendleton. And I was very honored to co-chair that meeting with their board chairman, Les Minthorn. Since that time, we've had another meeting with Chairman Minthorn, and they came and visited us last week for about 5 or 6 hours, toured our properties, and we're exploring potential economic development opportunities that we can partner on. Right now, that's including an interpretive art display on Clover Island, which would be in that building that I talked about at the village at Island Harbor, that middle building. Well, I think my time's up, but I hope that gave you some idea of what the Port of Kennewick has been doing, what you have to look forward to from the port in the future, and maybe it helps you understand more about what ports do, or at least what the Port of Kennewick does, and how we help foster economic development within our communities. Thank you for being here. I'll be happy to answer any questions, and God bless you, and God bless America.
Does anybody have any questions of Skip at this point?
No. Bob said no.
Okay.
So we're good.
Great. Thanks again to Bill, Bob, Skip, and the port executives, directors, their staff for hard work and the important role your organizations play in our community, and especially in the area of economic development. Once again, I'd like to thank the Tri-Cities Cancer Center for sponsoring our luncheon today. Thank you so much. Thank you also to our friends at Richland City View and Charter Communications for recording today's meeting, in which will play on the rebroadcast on both channels. And also thanks to Ian and staff at the Richland Red Lion for a great job of hosting us. Before we adjourn, I would like to remind that the Chamber's Open for Business Expo takes place at Track in Pasco in 4 weeks from today. This year's expo includes workshops, 100 exhibitors, and the chief economist for the state of Washington, and our annual Schmooza Palooza, the after-party event from 4 to 6 p.m. Be sure and register to exhibit soon. 60% of our booths are sold. Thank you all for attending our membership meeting this afternoon. And remember, it's good business to do business with Tri-City Regional Chamber members. Thank you.